All right. Jayson Gaddis here, coming at you from a couples session where I'm going to review this coaching session I did with this couple, Shannon and Matthew. And I'm going to kind of walk through why I did what I did. This can be helpful for you coaches or therapists or people that work with couples, and also can be helpful for you married folks or people who are in long-term relationships. Can be also helpful for you single people who are like, oh my God, that was my last relationship. So you might learn a couple things to do differently. We'll see. All right, so here we go with Shannon and Matthew. All right. Welcome, Shannon and Matthew.
Thank you.
Yeah. So you two are brave enough to try to get some help here, knowing that we're recording this. And that may serve other people. So I just want to say thank you for just being courageous and being honest. You know, it's refreshing to be around people who are like willing to talk about what's actually going on in the marriage or partnership.
Yeah.
You're welcome. And we appreciate your help as well.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, why don't you two give me the scoop? Like, what, if I were to help you, we don't have a ton of time. Like, what do you feel stuck around, or what do you want to get stronger in, or what do you want help with?
I just feel, right, we're at a point in our relationship, you know, we're 1 year in, so we haven't been together all that long. And we're just having a lot of communication breakdown, a lot of feeling unheard.
Communication breakdown. This is like probably one of the most common relationship challenges, right? Is communication issues.
I think. And that kind of escalating to more conflict.
Okay.
Especially more conflict than what I'm used to, and more conflict than what I like to have or prefer in the energy that it creates in my home, which I think of as my safe space.
Right. Okay. Matthew, who can't relate to that, right? If you're feeling communication challenges and conflict at home, and it's your supposed safe space, you go home and it's not so much that. Hopefully that should be incentive, right? To learn how to work through it. Would you describe it?
Well, I'll start by saying, I love Shannon, and so I want to make sure that I am doing what I need to do to ensure that our relationship is going as well as it should be. And if I'm hearing things that I feel like I could change, if I understand how to change those behaviors, I want to just be open to what the solution is so that I can do my part to ensure that we have a good time together. And so if I'm hearing that I'm not listening, at least I'm hearing that and trying to figure out ways of correcting, paying closer attention. I've got some mental disabilities that I'm trying to work through, trying to get psychiatric care for that. So it's just...
Okay, so that can be a red flag, right? Is someone is claiming, self-reporting that they have mental disabilities. Could be a head injury, could be whatever. So I want to learn a little bit about that. I can't remember if I asked him about that, but that can create massive challenges in relationships.
Things that sometimes might not be completely under my control, and I'm trying to control my behavior as best I can.
Totally. And just, may I ask, was it like a head injury, or is there some
No, so to just briefly go over it, since I was a kid, I went through some trauma at a young age, and it wasn't until I was in college that I realized that I had ADHD and couldn't get it diagnosed then by the doctors, so I wasn't able to get any medication or treatment, and I just dealt with it on my own, which led to coping through drinking at an early age, and that led into getting sober and not drinking. And so trying to figure out a solution that's not just meditation or exercise or being in nature, going to therapy and yada, 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 writing, etc. Just trying to find, I don't really want to rely on medication, but if that is a solution, my partner also suggested maybe that would be helpful, and other people have as well.
Yeah. So there's some neurodivergence here going on with ADHD diagnosis. Yeah. Got it.
And anxiety. So that fear, anxiety combination of having a hard time focusing, being in my head, and like having to tell people, hey, I need a moment for you to slow down or else I'm not going to be able to absorb what you're saying. It's frustrating for the other people around me. And I feel for them as well, because I would imagine that that's tough for them to have to work around.
Yeah. So that helps me, right, as a practitioner, when he unpacks what's going on. Now, normal is a loaded word these days, and I could say he falls in a fairly normal range because so many people have ADHD or ADD and struggle staying focused, struggling following through on their goals, have a hard time understanding others. This is, I think, more and more common, but it's helpful to know about him because he's a unique soul moving through the planet, and what matters is that Shannon understands him and how his history impacts how he shows up. Totally. Well, thanks for saying all that. Yeah, you're not alone. I know there's a lot of people that have challenges here for the two reasons the things you're struggling with, anxiety and ADHD. So, okay, that's helpful to know. And well, why don't we do this? Let's have you turn toward each other so I can see you. The listener won't be able to see you unless they're on YouTube, but and just check in. Like, how does this feel right now as you look at each other? As you get and thanks for, I know it's tight quarters here. How does this feel just looking at each other just right now?
It feels right. We tend to do better when other people are around. We behave better.
Totally.
Even virtually.
I'm feeling a little bit nervousness, but that could just be part of being on the...
Okay, so if you're watching on YouTube, right when she says, I'm feeling some nervousness, he puts his left hand up and starts rubbing her right shoulder. And I start to pick up on, it doesn't look like she's exactly enjoying that, but let's see what happens.
Recording.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's a level of intensity, I guess is the best way to explain it.
And how does it feel to have Matthew's hand on you? And then right as I said that, he put both hands up in her hair and then went to her shoulders. And so as a couples coach, I'm really tracking, does this work for her or not? And I'm hoping Matthew also is tracking, does this work for her or not?
I feel loved and supported, protected.
Mm-hmm. So that's a good sign, right? And her body seemed to suggest something different, but I'm just going to go with it. How's that feel to hear, Matthew?
It feels good. She complimented my eggs today and said they were the best that she'd had in a while, and that touched my heart.
Yeah, sweet. Yeah, so as you look at each other right now, would you say this is a good space that you're in right now, or is there just crunchiness right below the surface, or what's going on?
I think it's right below the surface.
Yeah. Okay, well, from this good place, you guys are being kind and respectful to each other right now, which is cool. Whoever wants to start, what is that kind of crunchiness that's just there? So all I've got so far is that they have communication issues, right? I'm going into this blind. I'm just curious. I'm learning as I go. We'll see where the crunchiness and / communication issues lead us. It'll be really interesting to see where this goes. Is that? And she's emotional. Now she's getting emotional because she can easily go there and start talking about it.
I don't know. It's kind of emotional.
Yeah. Matthew, what's she feeling right now?
I can tell she's nervous.
So I'm asking him because I want to see if he's tracking her.
Also lunchtime, so she skipped lunch. She just got done working.
That's, I think, part of the issue is that I think...
Okay, so you can see I really encourage you to get this on YouTube, but you can see that he's kind of missing her, sort of deflecting, making it about lunch when, really it's she's tender and she's like, yeah, we're in a hard place. And he's making it about her hunger and maybe the time of day.
I think that there's always a level of justification or excuse right below the surface of every action that whenever there's a conflict or something's wrong, or say oh, I don't like the way you're talking to me in that moment, or can you change your tone? It's met with kind of what he just did, that sort of excuse. But right now I think the crunchiness is just I'm exhausted from trying and fighting.
Yeah.
it's just that level of stress.
So yeah, just let's hang out here for just a second. So Matthew, what happens for you here as she's emotional? Like, because earlier you sort of said, oh, she's just hungry and didn't eat, but she's like, no, that's not what's going on. Like, so what starts to happen for you when she gets emotional like this?
Going back to my early childhood trauma was seeing my mom in abusive relationships and her not being able to take care of anyone, but barely take care of herself. And I didn't grow up with her in the house either. So it always hurt me to see women hurting. And so if Shannon is upset, I'm going to look to how I can help her. So I don't always look at me as the problem first. And sometimes I get defensive if I think I'm the problem. And if I think that there's a solution that's alternate to.
So he's saying a lot now. And he's already said a lot. It was really sweet. He reveals himself and his past there, which helps me, of course, not having met him at all. He's getting that there's a connection between his mom and Shannon. And it's hard for him to see a woman in pain. And now he's sort of, I'm not sure where he's going at this point.
Me removing myself from the environment, then I would think, how can I care for this person who takes care of herself very well? So it's hard for her to, and this is what she has expressed to me, but it's hard for her to want to just let somebody else take care of her at times. So I tried my best to struggle with all of that. But it's good to hear her open up about how she's feeling too.
And what do you think she really needs, like in this moment? What do you, like if you were to do something different, what do you think she's actually looking for right now?
I'm hearing that she's tired of fighting. So me being more agreeable, because again, that's where my anxiety is affecting our disposition collectively. Me just being more agreeable, which is hard because I have my own security issues where I don't want to let people take control of environments that are not if it's just hard for me to let go of that control too.
Yeah.
I don't think that I want you to be more agreeable. That's not what I feel would work in a partnership. It's more of us being able to meet and communicate and be a team and like problem solve together.
Mm-hmm. And before we, I'm with you, Shannon. Before we do that, because we might, problem solving might work. Matthew, I want you to try something, okay?
Yeah.
Just look, meet each other's eyes here. And Matthew, just try saying, I'm going to give you some words and then you tweak them so they feel genuine, okay?
Okay.
Honey, I'm right here and I care about your feelings.
Shannon.
So right after I said that, he's saying Shannon, and he put his hands back up on her shoulders, and he's like rubbing them. And he's kind of intensely looking in her eyes.
I have been with you nearly every day since we met. What was the second thing you said? After I'm here with you.
So less words is better, and let's try not to do anything with her shoulders, okay? Just, I'm right here, and I care about your feelings.
I care about your feelings.
And Shannon, notice how that feels.
I don't believe him.
Okay, because he's just like regurgitating my words. But let's imagine, Shannon, for a minute that he meant it.
Mm-hmm.
And he actually did care about your feelings. Because somewhere inside, he's kind of like saying it's hard for him to see you upset. So clearly he does care. He cares about his own, pain too. But let's imagine for a minute he did care about your feelings. What would that feel like over there, Shannon?
Like uncomfortable for me because I think that's the first time that anyone has probably genuinely cared about my feelings.
Okay, so she's getting emotional. So Matthew, notice what that so she's getting emotional now. So I'm watching Matthew now. Thought of that, what that does for her. Do you think that helps her hearing that?
From me?
Like, yeah, if you were to really mean it, because she just said, wow, that would be like the first time. Do you think that is helpful?
To me.
No, to Shannon.
Oh, for her to know that. I would hope that she counts on me as a person who cares about her. I've met her family. I know.
So he doesn't exactly answer the question. I'm trying. The reason I'm asking him such a simple question is I want to see if he notices that, like, wow, if I said that, she would be really impacted, and it looked to me like in a really positive way, which is why we're doing this experiment, right?
Who cares most about her?
Yeah, but I mean, right now, like, let's just, if you can, Matthew, see if you can like really feel your care, and you don't need to do anything with it. Just see if you can feel like you really care about this woman, right?
Yes.
Okay, and just one sentence. Only say one sentence from that place. What would you say?
I love you. I always want to be there to help you.
Okay, and Shannon, how was that to hear?
Comforting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and he said something, it trailed off there, it got really quiet, but he said, I love you, and I always want to be there for you. I think it was something like that. Yeah. And Matthew, why don't you try one more, say something else that you think is going to help her right now. So he grabs the shoulders again, and now he's kind of rubbing her back and forth, which is, again, I'm watching her like, is that going to work for her? And now they're kind of having what appears to be sort of a deflective laugh, but I'm not solely sure.
Breathe.
Okay.
And then he tells her to breathe.
I've known since early on how much you mean to me in my life because of the way you treated me early on. I told you on our second date.
Yeah. And then now, Matthew, try saying something about the crunchiness that she's really struggling with. That's really hard for her.
I can't help but make
Without a big story, not a lot of, just keep it simple.
I'm sorry that you're uncomfortable in this relationship. It's not fair to you.
Well, I missed the last sentence you said.
Oh, I said it's not fair to her to be uncomfortable in our relationship.
Yeah, so he apologizes and then says it's not fair. So let's see how that goes. And how do you think that landed when you see her face?
I hope she thinks that I mean it.
Well, what do you see? What do you see right now? Did that help her? Did that not help her?
She just looks a little nervous. Unsure, maybe? I don't know. You're nodding.
Did she believe you? Did she take in your words, or is she like, yeah, whatever, guy?
She's probably distracted by the gardener outside.
You're distracted.
Okay.
So he says, you're probably distracted by the gardener outside. And she shakes her head no, and then says, you're distracted.
I don't know. I would rather hear from her, to be honest. But if I were to guess, I think she's still uncertain.
Okay. So then ask her if you're curious.
Are you believing I want you to become in this relationship?
I believe that you think that, but I don't feel that your actions truly support what you're saying.
Okay, that's a really common one. I get that one, actually. So sometimes the partner says, I believe the words, but I don't feel you, kind of thing.
That it just feels like work.
So what are you saying, like, translate that so he understands?
I think it's just like that age-old saying, like, actions speak louder than words. And as we can tell from the first however many minutes, and after full of words.
So you're basically saying, I don't believe you.
It's not like 100% of like, I don't believe you. I think that like you want that and you want to care about my comfort. I just haven't seen you do the things that actually translate to that.
Okay, we're going to get to what those things are. Matthew, what do you think one of those things is that would translate that you care?
Well, listening. she's always telling me to listen.
Okay, and then see if that's right. Just make sure you get a head nod from her or something. Yep. Okay, keep going.
So I would say that extends to boundaries, just respecting her, freedom to finish her sentences, to express how she feels, to complete a thought so that she can relay information to me. And sometimes I have to tell her to slow down, and that's hard for me. Sometimes I have to tell her, hey, if you really want me to absorb this information, let's write this down. I would prefer to keep notes in that situation.
Okay, is he getting it right so far?
Yeah, I mean, the gist of it, yes. The boundaries is a big thing that I feel like is not respected.
So listening and boundaries are two of the big ones. Okay.
And then feeling supported. She carries the weight financially, and so anything that I can do outside of me.
Okay. She carries the weight financially. So boundaries and she carries the weight financially now got my attention because I'm like, all right, we're getting into, they have communication issues clearly. And there's something deeper going on. I'm not sure what it is yet, but these are little clues that like, okay, there's more to the story here.
Money is something that we both think that I should be doing. And so I know sometimes I fail at that. Sometimes I put my needs above our needs. And I think she doesn't feel supported in that case because she does a lot to help me.
Okay, see if that's true. See if you get the head nod or whatever. What was that statement, Shannon?
Yeah, yes, that's true, but I feel like still making it a little bit more convoluted than I just want help around the house. Like it's really just that simple.
Like, what does that mean? Like yard work or taking out the trash, doing the dishes? What do you mean?
So I work and I commute and I'm the breadwinner, and I feel like when I come home, the emotional labor of the household still falls on me. So the cleaning or planning meals or not grocery, he does that part, it's all him, but the cooking and cleaning is, and just, the cleaning of the home itself, knowing when we're out of certain things, like it just adds on to that constant to-do list.
Right, totally. So he doesn't totally do that the way you want, like doesn't do it at all, or just kind of does it sometimes, or
the first one.
Okay.
I feel like it was a lot better in the beginning, and
we just moved too.
Yeah, and I bought a house and we moved, and I feel like since we've moved to the new house, it's been not at all.
And why do you think, as you look at Matthew there, why do you think that's so hard for him, or why is that not happening? Knowing him and who he is.
Change is really hard for him, and adjusting to change takes him a long time.
And so, so change is hard for him. Adjusting to change is hard for him. And are you saying that that's what keeps him from just cleaning the house before you get home?
I think a lot of it actually has to do with the ADHD. I think that there's a level of him just getting distracted, and
what's he distracted by though? Like he kind of knows his task, right? I've got 5 hours or 8 hours.
How long tasks take, and how planning, just time management of that, and feeling that like I have one thing on my plate today. I have to go get my blood drawn, for example, and that's the only thing he's capable of doing for the entire day. Or I want to go, or he wants to go to the gym, but it's not, hey, I'm going to go lift weights for 45 minutes. It turns into a 3-hour ordeal, which is then cuts into, then I'm tired and I don't want to,
Is she, Matthew, is she understanding you here in terms of why it's really hard for you to just have the house clean when she gets home?
Yeah, I think those are all fair and accurate. Just time management is accurate for sure.
So we're getting to know Matthew through her, that it's for whatever reason, ADHD or his cognition function or his time management, his focus, etc. He can't clean the house or take good care of the home while she's away in the way that she wants to, right?
Just prioritizing, organizing, things like that.
Yeah. And what do you, Matthew, what do you imagine the impact is on her when you don't prioritize, you don't time manage well? So I'm trying to, again, just help people flex that empathy muscle of like, curiosity that, wow, this is going to be hard for her. And so let's see how he does. She comes home and it's not done. What's the impact on her?
Well, we both have different standards when it comes to cleanliness. And so I would consider her a neat freak. And so I know that she's expressed to me that adds stress to her if, because then she feels like she has to do it rather than letting me do it when I want to get to it.
Mm-hmm. So what's the impact on her though, when you don't do it?
Probably feeling like I'm not grateful for her support and probably feeling like I'm not being a good team member and holding up my end of the bargain.
And so she feels what?
Not like she's not a priority, like her feelings aren't a priority, that I'm not trying to care for her needs.
Yeah. Is he getting it here, Shannon?
A little bit. I think it's easier said as it just stresses me out. Mm-hmm. And I don't, and I don't handle stress very well. I mean, I have a very stressful job. So if it's spilling over into my home life, it's more intense.
Yeah. Okay. So it sounds like you said emotional labor earlier of the home, and then it sounds like the physical labor. So does he know what you mean by emotional labor? I'm asking because to me, emotional labor is like a woman's doing the emotional labor in the relationship by feeling for both people. So when she talked about the house as emotional labor, I was confused. So I'm trying to help myself here understand that through him.
If I were to guess, I understand how stressful her job is. So if she's coming home, that's probably just feeling to her like I need a safe space to come and be comfortable until I'm ready to reappear in the world. And so I think that if she comes home and she doesn't feel like that space is safe because I've violated that safety for her, then it probably feels like she doesn't have a safe place to go when she needs one.
All right. Now language matters here. Violation. He thinks he violated her safety. That's a pretty strong word. I don't see it as a violation. I see it as more of a lack of consideration. And then she's going to be hurt and stressed, right? Shannon, is that right? Or how would you say it?
True, but that's not what I meant by the emotional labor. Emotional labor, I mean the stuff that goes to adulting, right? That's constantly just running through my mind. So what bills need to be paid, when they need to be paid, whether we're out of toilet paper, who's going to stop at the store and get that. It's the, medical appointments and vet appointments and like all of those things that just the scheduling of life, the planning of our free time, like, going to events and, things like that, buying tickets, making travel plans. Like it's just constant and it's heavy.
Yeah. Okay. So that's what you mean by emotional labor?
Kind of like just the whole, there's.
I would call that like administrative and logistical life stuff.
Yeah. And then I think there's also the part of me feeling like I'm holding the relationship, the emotional side of the relationship, that I'm making sure, his needs are being met, and almost to the point where I'm like neglecting my own or not. Like, I just feel like I'm constantly filling his love bucket and not necessarily always getting mine filled. And so it's the emotional labor of like trying to make the relationship work is part of it too.
Yeah. All right. That helps, right? It rounds it out more. So a lot of women in Shannon's shoes would feel like kind of like a mom. Okay, I've got to look after the house, track all the details, the administrative tasks, the logistical stuff, and I'm tracking the relationship. So that adds more stress to her plate. And it's really important that Matthew gets that. And maybe that's motivation for him. We'll see. What would happen, Shannon, as you look at Matthew, if you backed off doing that?
I would be bombarded with constant complaining and whining almost.
The reason I'm asking, I'm going in this direction. You could go a number of directions here. I'm interested because right now it's very much Matthew's the problem, and she's not seeing yet how she's part of the problem.
Like a teenager.
And then what might happen if that kind of got worse?
That then leads to the conflict, and I'm very fiery, and I feel like he doesn't hear me until I'm yelling. And
so you start raising your voice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, okay. Wow. You're saying you put in all this effort, not only in the home, managing all the logistics, feels like a big responsibility. And then you're the breadwinner. And on top of that, you're saying I also kind of lead or track the relational stuff. Now I could have probably should have actually, now that I'm watching this, should have gone through Matthew there and just said, Matthew, what are the kind of two things you're getting here? Or just what are you getting? And had him see if he was really paying attention. Right? And then if I don't do that, I'm going to be met with a lot of, his complaints, and it's going to be a problem. So, and then it's going to get worse from there. So I better keep doing it. Is that how you have it set up here?
Kind of. I mean, it's more of like, I hear his level of disappointment, and it's like I don't want him to be disappointed in me in a relationship. So then I just like keep chugging on.
Yeah. Have you kind of trained him a certain way that around this? Do you know what I mean by that? By your actions. You've trained him to expect a certain sort of that you're going to pull a lot of weight.
I guess.
Does that feel true?
Yeah. I think maybe like unintentionally.
Right, of course. It often is unintentional. If you live in the United States and you want to receive text messages from me about my personal life or little daily reminders, you can do that now. It's so cool. You just need to text the number 720-704-4852. Or you can go to my.community.com/Jayson Gaddis. And that way you can sign up for text. And if you just text me podcast, I know you came from the podcast, and I will be sending you text messages. You can always stop at any time just by typing in STOP. All right? Yeah, I look forward to connecting with you on your phone, folks. So Matthew, as you hear this, what do you think or feel?
Trying not to be defensive. So trying to be understanding of how Shannon feels.
That was really cool of him to say, I'm trying not to be defensive instead of just immediately defending himself. By the way, I just want to pause you. I love that you said I'm trying not to be defensive, because it is so hard not to be defensive sometimes. That was cool. Just that you caught yourself like that.
Yeah. So just if I'm trying to understand how it feels for her, because I don't want it to be about, this is really the thing. Like, for example, Shannon travels a lot. I don't. We just got back from our first flight together. And so now I see how she does vacations. And so a lot of these trips are planned by her. And so my idea of vacation is work. And so right now I'm not working full time. I just started going to school. And so I think she's feeling a lot of that weight from the fact that if I'm not working, then
what did you just see on her face there? What did you see on her face there when
she's not agreeing with what I'm saying?
Right. So when you see that, just pick up on those signals and then check it out.
Listening to her talk about, like, her idea is.
Okay, he didn't really he's just wanting to stay with his thread. You totally missed her. She's nodding her head no. I would personally pause and be like, okay, what? And, it's like another little conflict here. But he wants to get his point across, I guess.
To satisfy my needs, sometimes I have to remind her, hey, let me deal with my own anxiety. She's an empath, so can I say what you do for work? She's a nurse practitioner, so she takes on a lot of weight in her daily life. And so to have a patient at home is probably adding stress to her life. And so I tell her sometimes, hey,
Okay, so that's interesting that he called himself a patient, right? He's got that much awareness that they're in a dynamic that feels like nurse-patient or perhaps mother-son. And there's some awareness there, which is good.
Do the things I need to do to take care of myself. That's sometimes why I have to go exercise, why I have to eat, why I have to be around some people.
Do you, Matthew, do you feel like she gives you the space that to take care of yourself, or is she always kind of...
I think she thinks she does, and I don't think that she sees where she doesn't, because I try to point it out to her, and that's when she gets defensive. And I also have a hard time with boundaries and giving her that space sometimes, and I think that's where our codependent relationship doesn't work well for us. But I think...
Okay, and then he throws out codependent, so again, awareness that there is maybe a codependent dynamic going on here.
I think that the times that I do get to take care of myself is because she gives me that freedom and privilege and opportunity to be able to take care of myself. She's helped me out a lot. And so I don't want her to feel like I'm not doing the things. Her love languages, her top two are words of affirmation and physical affection. And so I try to fill those as much as possible. And if she's feeling like I'm not filling her love bucket, borrow her language, I don't want her to feel that way.
What's happening for Shannon right now?
She's distracted by somebody walking by. So how are you feeling?
I don't know. I just feel like we've talked about this kind of stuff over and over again, yet we can't seem... we're stuck in it.
Yeah. And that feels like what, Shannon?
A little like hopeless, I guess, for a future. Because I feel like if something doesn't change, I'm going to get burnt out.
And do you have it that Matthew is the one that needs to change?
No, I think that there's definitely me contributing to the situation.
How? What do you think you could change? And maybe while she's answering that, Matthew, you could think about your end. If you could just change one thing, we can't move mountains here, but we could change possibly one thing. There's maybe one next step. What could you change, Shannon, about yourself?
To be more patient.
And do you think that's realistic?
Yeah, I do it all day, every day, I'm not...
But in your relationship?
Yeah, with him. Do you think it's realistic to be more patient with Matthew? The reason I'm challenging this questioning, the patience thing, is because I just think it's a dodge. Yeah, I'll just try to be more patient. People aren't able to do that.
Honestly, don't know.
Right. So let's try to be realistic here. Maybe you can. I think that's definitely one you could work on long term. I mean, I'm fucking super impatient myself. And that's a really hard, like a lifelong project to be more patient for me. So yeah, just feel into it. What else could you maybe realistically do? And I was alluding to one idea earlier, if you remember. Not saying that's the thing, but that's one idea. And again, I'm trying to get her to self-reflect, because her whole narrative is, it's really, God, this guy is kind of difficult. So let's see.
I'm not even certain right now, to be honest.
Okay. Maybe ask Matthew.
Matthew, what do you think?
For me or for her?
For her.
Oof. I mean, she's expressed before that she feels like she needs to be more patient with me. So I know she wants to, I mean, this was her idea. I know she wants the relationship to work, and that means a lot to me. When I hear her say the word hopeless, that hurts me because that makes me like I don't want to give up on this relationship. I want it to work. As far as what I would need to do to help her be more patient is for me to pause and stop myself from reacting emotionally in a situation where I could just be different for her, so I can listen to what she needs or tell her, hey, I've been trying to be more active about that. Just say, hey, I need a moment to finish up what I'm doing. I'm not as good at multitasking as she is. But as far as her changing, I don't expect other people to have to change to work around me. But I would want, when I met her, she was doing different activities before she went on this house hunting search. And so, I'd like her to get back to her routine that she was in when we met.
Mm-hmm.
I think what I can do is, I don't even really know how to say this, but like not take it all on, like not feel like I have to meet all of your
There we go.
all the time.
Nice. He's in agreement. You see that?
Mm-hmm.
He's in agreement. Could that help him?
Mm-hmm.
Shannon, do you think that would help him if you did that?
No, I just don't trust that it won't be met with like a level of complaining.
Yeah.
And running to the point where it's like he goes and sleeps in the other room.
Shannon, before you met this guy, did you have this tendency to take it all on?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Who in your life did you primarily take it all on with?
From childhood, my mom.
Yeah. Okay. Let's just stay there. Your mom, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Is it possible that that's a projection going on here?
Yeah.
You feel sometimes like maybe you did as a kid. When he behaves a certain way, you feel like you did as a little girl. And then you feel like you have to take it all on.
Yeah.
Because what would have happened as a little girl if you didn't take it all on with mom? What could have happened?
It was more of like her emotional state was never stable.
And then what worst case scenario for a little girl seeing an emotionally unstable mom, if the little girl doesn't act and mom gets worse, what could happen?
It's more of like I just try to do everything to like, because she was so stressed out about other things in her life. It was just me trying not to be one more thing on her plate.
Exactly. Because what would have happened if it was one more thing on her plate and it got really bad with mom? Would she have died? Would she have gone to a mental hospital? What would have happened?
Either one of those things.
Right. And how terrifying is that for a little girl?
It's very scary.
Yeah. Okay. Can you see the similarity here?
Mm-hmm.
So if you stop taking it all on with Matthew, right? What might happen? What's the scary bad thing that might happen?
You might be homeless.
Right. Yeah. That's possibly real. That maybe not, but maybe that's real, right?
Mm-hmm.
But whatever, can you see how your fear is driving a lot of your taking it all on?
Yeah.
Is that Matthew's fault?
No.
Right. Is that yours to kind of keep working on?
Yes. Absolutely.
Okay. So you said it. You actually said the words, maybe I could stop taking it all on.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Maybe you take a lot on, and that's fine. Take a lot on, but maybe you have some boundaries like you guys were saying earlier. And maybe you could look Matthew in the eyes and say, I'm going to practice trusting that you'll be okay when I don't take it all on.
Trusting you'll be okay when I don't take it all on.
See his head nod? Do you think he can handle it?
Saying yes.
Shannon?
Yeah.
Be honest, Shannon. When you look at him, do you think this guy can handle that?
Yes.
She has very high standards.
Yeah.
I don't think
So can you see how actually disempowering it is to Matthew if you keep taking it all on?
Yeah.
Are you helping him become an adult and like deal with the responsibilities of life?
No.
Right. So so I think you're getting it, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. Matthew, how's this feel that she's kind of getting it here about something?
It's nice to see her be okay talking about stress from her past and understanding how that's affecting her present.
Mm-hmm. And how does it feel that she wants to trust you more and she wants to step back a notch? How's that feel?
I mean, we'll see, but I would like, for us both to feel like we have the appropriate space in our own little bubbles so that when we connect, we feel good about ourselves.
Yeah. Does it feel scary to you a little bit? No. Okay. Do you feel like you got this?
As far as my end, I know that I need
If she steps back, you're going to have to step forward, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you trust yourself? Or you're like, oh shit.
I trust myself.
I don't.
All right. This is where it gets really interesting. So we're winding down and Matthew's like, oh yeah, I got this. So in my language, it's big hat, no cattle, where he can talk a big game, but he won't follow through because she's immediately going, no way, you can't do this, which is why they're stuck in this dynamic, right? So we came in with communication problems. We're starting to see, there's this deeper dynamic that's creating some communication problems where she's overfunctioning, he's underfunctioning. And so it kind of works. That's codependency, right? Yeah. So let's see, is there in this kind of laughing moment, she's not believing him. He's saying, I got it. Let's see what happens. Okay. Right. And here's one of the big conflicts, right? Is Matthew saying, no, I got this. And Shannon's saying, no, you don't. And so Shannon's going to keep stepping in. I would never be
at her level, but of competence. But.
Right. We're not, that's unrealistic. Yeah, I think that's a valid point. And Shannon, this is important for you to understand is that he's never going to be like you, right? But he can be a little more himself and step up a little more, right?
Mm-hmm. For sure.
Yeah. And I know we're running out of time here, but I know we're not totally getting at the sort of conflict, the sort of everyday conflict, but is this right here helpful?
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah. What's helpful about it?
Just gives me, I'm very type A and need an assignment kind of thing.
Yeah.
So,
I don't like rules.
It gives me a goal. It gives me something to work towards. And if there's one thing I'm good at is accomplishing goals.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's helpful in framing it that way.
Yeah. Matthew?
Yeah, it's just refreshing to see her face from where we started when there was a lot of nerves that I saw and a lot of doubt or insecurity or whatever she would call it versus now she seems to be calmer and more uplifted.
And how do you feel?
I feel good. I mean, I feel less nervous than I was before.
Matthew is very oriented towards how she's feeling. That's kind of his orientation.
But it is nice to hear her, to see that light bulb go off and to hear her say, that she's willing to make an effort for the sake of the relationship.
Yeah. So, Matthew, I want you to remember something about her that when she was a kid, it sounds like you already know this maybe, but it was really scary for her. So she had to mobilize, right? And we haven't even gotten into your history, right?
Well, and I never considered her, me being her mom in that role. That was an awakening for me in that moment. That was how that translates for her.
Yeah, thanks for being. I mean, it doesn't matter what the mom, dad. We just tend to project someone onto our partner, and it triggers us, right? There's a hook there, but there's healing to do here. Anyway, what I was saying in Matthew is when she's really stretching herself to not take it all on, and we'll get practical here in a second. You got to remember how terrified that little 5-10-year-old is to do that. And what was at stake back then. So if you get mad at her, annoyed by her not doing it, just try to remember that, okay?
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. And then if we had time, I'm kind of bummed we don't have time because I want to get into like what has you not step forward, and we could go into your history, right? And you guys that might be one piece of homework here as you have that conversation in terms of, how can I have more compassion for Matthew around why he struggles sometimes to step forward when I step back? Because you see how this is a dynamic, right? If Shannon keeps kind of over functioning, Matthew gets to not function or function less. We want it to be a balance of, okay, Matthew steps forward, but the only way he can is if Shannon isn't taking it all on. Co-created, right? It's no one's fault here. It's just co-created. Yeah. So one practical piece here that I'd leave you with is I would have a conversation tonight when you have space. Let's define not taking it all on as one baby step. So let's say, okay, the one thing I'm not going to take on is cleaning the kitchen or paying the bills or doing whatever with the yard or planning the vacation, or like you two come to an agreement where you can both feel successful with Shannon not taking it all on and instead Matthew stepping forward and taking one thing on, just one thing. Okay. And I think that will give you a great playground to explore this dynamic. And then over time, if you have success with one thing, maybe you can try another thing. But start with one pretty small thing that you feel like you can both do.
Sounds good.
Is that all right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Awesome. Okay, thanks, guys. Great to connect. Thanks for sharing your hearts and just your vulnerability here with us and the listener. And seriously, it's going to help a lot of people.
Yeah, we appreciate your help. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Have a good weekend.
Okay, take care. Bye.
Bye.
All right. Yeah, let's break that down briefly. As you can see, we find people who kind of complement us around our wounds and our past. Matthew found himself someone who would kind of take care of him. And that's his comfort zone. So he doesn't want to continue to do that. His work is to get empowered, which is to be, allow himself way more room to become empowered and to believe in himself and to follow through on what he says he's going to do. That's going to give him a ton of confidence. But he can't do that, of course, unless he has space to do that or takes up the space. And Shannon, of course, found herself with someone who reminds her of her mother and that she kind of had to take it all on with or things would go bad. So, of course, she finds a partner like that. But that's her comfort zone. And so the growing edge for her is to not take it all on. And I'm just challenging them to do one thing. Just do one thing, guys, in the next, few weeks. That's going to be like a practice ground, a playground for them to change the pattern over time. These patterns run deep. And, And right now, the understanding of Matthew is that he's not taking it all on or not taking more on because he has ADHD. And he has some cognitive, or what did he say? His head, it wasn't a head injury, but you remember what he said in the beginning. Mental difficulties, I think is what he said. So if that were like, we have to, sometimes people use their disability as a reason to not self-actualize and self-motivate. And so I would want, if I had more time here, I would want Shannon to explore his history with my help. Like, all right, what dynamic did you get into as a kid where it was really scary if you didn't kind of learn helplessness or whatever is going on here? We would start to learn like, oh shit, this was a really smart strategy for him as a little boy to kind of behave this way, but it's not serving him as an adult man, right? Okay, so hopefully you guys understand that there is a codependent-ish dynamic going on here, right? It's just really interesting that he said patient. She's a nurse. Nurse patient, mother son, very similar dynamic. And so those of you who have been in relationships like this can certainly relate, right? but both people have a part. You can see that it's co-created. It's not Matthew just fucking up here. It's both people are participating in this dynamic, and both people need to participate to unhook the dynamic. All right. Hopefully this was useful. Thanks again, Matthew and Shannon. Thanks everybody for listening, and get and stay connected. As you know, I've dedicated my life to helping people with their relationships, right? I want to solve this problem so that all of you can work through your differences and have fulfilling, amazing, badass partnerships and relationships, family, coworkers, friends, whoever. And I have trained a ton of relationship coaches, almost 100 certified relationship coaches, to help you specifically work through your relationship challenges. So I want to invite you to a special deal we're offering to the podcast listener, where you can get 50% off your first month of coaching with one of our amazing relationship coaches. Okay, if you're tired of therapy, it feels like that's going around in a circle, or you want to actually set goals and accomplish your relationship goals, hire a relationship coach. Okay, go to relationshipschool.com/get coaching now, and then use the coupon code FIRST50 to get the 50% deal off your first month of relationship coaching. Super psyched to have our amazing coaches serve you and help you get to the next level. Hey, thanks so much for listening. Please subscribe to this YouTube channel. Share one of these videos with a friend. We want to help the planet get their act together around relationships, and you are one of them, so thank you.